So I tell you, it is. I mean, that's what happens when you have something that's out of your control. Hey, we're live, John.
We are live. Okay, Fish. Well, we've got another great one for you. We have two Kens tonight. First, Ken Singleton, the Yankee broadcaster and former Major League player for the Yankees, Mets, Expos, and Orioles. Then we have Ken Davis, journalist, author on TV news and broadcasting, and also on Hollywood. He even has a tell-all book. Ginger Snaps is going to tell all about her dating escapades in Europe. And speaking of Europe, our schmuck of the week has a French accent. Who's got the swag, though, is a real American. Plus, something fishy about some horrible fans. And as always, the Daily Grind. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Daily Fish. John Daly here, along with Eric Snyder, a.k.a. Fish. We are coast to coast, coming to you from Las Vegas and Myrtle Beach. We talk about sports, entertainment, and everything in between. Right, Fish?
Absolutely. This is a great show lined up today, and this is podcast number 6, and it's a pleasure to be with you, John.
Right back at you, buddy. Okay, it's time for the Daily Grind. Here's what we are grinding on first. Fans of this show, Charles Ewart from New Zealand and Peter McGregor from Scotland, wanted us to mention the sports of soccer, cricket, rugby, and lacrosse. And of course, we will, especially since we are getting an international audience. Now, cricket is by far the most popular sport in India, and the other three, well, they actually dominate the globe, but not in America yet. So the question we ask is this: could we see a rise in one of those sports in the next 25 years in America? Now, I say yes, but not in the next 10 years. I think our current American sports are going to stay strong as long as baby boomers are around. What say you, Fish?
I agree. Soccer's already building the momentum in the United States. I mean, the MLS, Major League Soccer, just signed a huge contract extension with Fox, and teams like Portland and Seattle are selling out 70,000 a game, and that's already has this little niche going on in the United States. I see rugby, those other sports, really taking a leap, because you have a rugby tournament here in Las Vegas, the Sevens over at Sam Boyd Stadium, and you can't get a ticket for it. So that's an I mean, these sports, cricket's a form of baseball. They take 3 days to play, and rugby's like guys touching each other's underwear trying to move a ball. I don't get it, but it's popular in the rest of the world. And seriously, and soccer. Look, anything that we can get in the United States that's another league that can draw kind of revenue, I'm all for it. The bottom line is the National Football League, which is the number one sport, is really only popular here, Canada, and London. No one gives a crap about the NFL in the rest of the world. So it's different. It's weird, all the different dynamics of sports.
Yep, I agree. All right, now to a Canadian sport, the NHL. Ryan Reeves of the Vegas Golden Knights went all Hanson brothers, a.k.a. Slapshot, on the ice Sunday night in their opening playoff game loss to the Colorado Avalanche. It was pretty drastic. He is suspended now, but that leads to another question that we're wondering about. Are guys like Tom Wilson, Evander Kane, and Reeves simply goons? And can hockey survive in America without the fighting? What do you think?
It's a great question. You've been to hockey too. Whenever you go to a game, and I've been to a game recently, whenever a fight starts, everyone jumps out of their seats and gets excited. I believe the National Hockey League is the only league that really allows fighting. In Europe and in Russia, you're suspended if you fight. I mean, there's that old saying that I went to a boxing match and a hockey game broke out. I mean, I hope we can live without it, but there's a lot of cheap shots at the net and in the crease, and it's only human reaction. If someone hits you in the ribs with a stick, you're going to fight back. I don't think it ever leaves us, but you don't need the egregious stuff happening. You don't need the goon tactic to go on. So no, it won't leave, but I hope it dissipates a little.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, next, the Braves might have lost their season thanks to Marcell Ozuna not only being injured, but being arrested for assaulting his wife. What's the worst about this whole thing is that he beat his wife, period. And he did it in front of cops. There is definitely something wrong with him. And the Braves are going to pay for it as well. What do you think of that, Fish?
It's horrible. I mean, we have a huge problem with domestic abuse in this country, and we're not that kind of show to talk about it. I've always said this: any man that hits an animal, a kid, or a woman has never been in a good fight with a man. They're wimps, okay? But it's obviously some kind of a mental issue, and it's got to be taken care of. And until sports recognizes, and they have, the NFL, all these sports leagues have great programs to help people like this. But I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It seems like when you're a first-time offender, sometimes you're a repeat offender.
Yeah. All right. So let's turn to Hollywood now. Hollywood apparently is coming back. It seems people are going back to the movies, or are they? Movie ticket sales are rising. Now, granted, some of it comes from China, but here in the U.S., many states are going back to allowing indoor film theaters to open as usual. I'm not so certain about that. And for me, I actually stopped going to movie theaters long before COVID. By the way, we should ask our guest Ken Davis about this as well. But what are you seeing, Fish?
Well, they're open. I mean, they're open here. I drove by a stand-only movie theaters here in Las Vegas, and it was packed. My problem is not so much that. I don't like going to the movies because here in Las Vegas, they sell alcohol. It's real smart. Get people drunk and then send them into a goddamn movie theater. It's the stupidest thing ever. You want to see I've seen fist fights happen because people say, be quiet. Or you get this one. A guy gets up like he's at a football game to get a beer every 5 minutes, and he gets back and he asks his wife what happened, and she gives him a detail. What happened? So I'm like, shh, it's crazy. So yeah, I mean, Vegas is a whole different dynamic when it comes to movies. I'm glad they're open. I'm a little, again, with the COVID, you want people sitting 5 rows above you, sneezing, even though you're vaccinated. I don't know. I'm glad they're open. Quiet Place did $48 million at the box office this past weekend. That's huge.
Yeah. Well, no one ever got COVID watching Netflix, so we can count on that. Okay. And finally, Fish, you have another exclusive on the influence of Tim Tebow. Explain.
Hang on a second. I'm trying to navigate here, but look at this guy. Okay. Now, you remember this guy right here? This is Jamarcus Russell. I'm actually wearing his jersey. I'm the only idiot that ever bought his jersey. This is one of the biggest busts in the NFL history. Another Tim Tebow inspiration. The Jaguars signed him to play left tackle. He's 430 pounds right now, and I think it's great that he's getting a second chance. I'm kidding, but again, it's another inspiration in the Tim Tebow pocketbook. You want to see something else that's going on in the world of sports? I don't trash talk. Do you, John? You're a Red Sox fan, Giants. I'm Raiders. I don't trash talk. I don't have the luxury to trash talk because my Raiders have about one winning season in the last 18 years. But Kansas City fans are the worst I've ever seen. The Chiefs fans, they have a right to. They're a great football team. They've had a lot of success. They won a Super Bowl the last 3 years, and Patrick Mahomes is a great kid. But this came across from one of our Kansas City fans. Look at this. This is Billy Joe. This is from Kansas City. My sister's pregnant, and I'm going to be a dad. Okay? This is one of Kansas City's biggest fans. So we at the Daily Fish podcast are going to send this guy a few things. We're going to send a lifetime membership to farmers.com. We're going to get him suspenders for himself and his wife. Okay. And then we're going to get the kid a nice John Deere tractor hat. Okay. And then we'll figure out how many boxes and cartons of cigarettes they're going to need to get through the pregnancy. Okay. So that being said, to all the Kansas City fans out there and all your fans who want to trash talk, we'll give it back to you here at Daily Fish.
Well, there you go. Well, being a Red Sox fan, in the 21st century, I can trash talk. And when we talk to Ken Singleton, he'll probably tell you that I do trash talk to him a little bit too when we talk baseball. All right. Have a question or a comment now? Drop it in the chat box here. And if you have comments later, email us at dailyfish1, the number 1, at gmail.com, or post to Facebook at daily.fish.5. Better yet, if you can record yourself, send us a question that we can put on the show. Make it short and email it to dailyfish1 at gmail.com. All right, time for some binge watching, Fish. I'm going to go this week with Grace and Frankie. Now, this is going to be the longest running Netflix original. They have 94 episodes, and they'll have 94, I should say, once it's done with their 7th season, which is just being shot this month, we're told. Now, a lot of people say, it's just a bunch of stars in their 70s and 80s, Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, Sam Waterston, and Martin Sheen. I say wrong. It is a laugh out loud, funny show. And the actors, I should say, who play the kids are just as spectacular. You get some great conflict and insights into the differences of the generation. So I say go watch it before the 7th season airs. Fish, what are you binging on?
I'm binging on a show that came out in 2014 called Red Oaks. Go back and channel your 1983 movie history and think about a movie called The Flamingo Kid about Matt Dillon working in a prestigious Long Island country club. This is about a kid in New Jersey who comes from a very lower class family that gets a job as a tennis pro in a prestigious country club in New Jersey, and Paul Reiser is the owner of the country club. Great characters, great comedy, a lot of sensitivity. I really enjoyed it. I didn't want it to end. It's a 3-season program. I think it's a lot of fun. Red Oaks.
All right, very good. All right, now let's go to something fishy. What do we have, Fish? So what is fishy? What's going on in the world? And I think I agree with you 100% on this one. Go ahead.
I'm really pissed off. And if I curse a little bit, I might. Okay. Any of you jerk offs out there that think you can go to an NBA game and throw popcorn or spit or throw beer on any of these athletes, I want you to do one thing. If you do this, I want you to go at the end of the game, meet them outside at the arena and settle like men. Okay. You don't have the right because you buy a goddamn ticket to harass any of these people. Okay. They're entertaining you. They don't know who you are because you know what, John? They don't go to your job and bother you. All right. You have 14,000 people in an arena. You don't know if someone snuck a pen or something like that. The NBA is the hardest because you have guys sit right on the floor. They're 3 feet away from you. Last night at recently in the Sixers-Wizards playoff game, a guy ran on the court. It's becoming an epidemic in this league that people are harassing these players. Okay. Leave them alone. I'm really pissed off at what I'm seeing. This just better be a fad and not a trend, because I don't want to see these guys need to be protected. Again, they're entertaining you. Cut the crap out.
I agree with you 100%. I think it's endemic, though, throughout all of our society. Everybody thinks they're the hero of their story, and they have to be out there and be the protagonist, and they've got to be the one who's got to take matters into their own hands. And unfortunately, that's what's happening. And I think we're going to see that for a while, but I agree with you 100%. All right, still ahead, we have Ginger Snaps. We will get a glimpse of her dating escapades while she studied in Europe. Again, thanks for tuning in. We are Daily Fish. We are live on Facebook Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We air on DBNA television on Roku, Amazon Fire, and soon Apple TV. We stream 24/7 on the DBNA television website at dbndatelevision.com. Follow and like us on Facebook at daily.fish.5 and subscribe on YouTube. Okay, it is time now for our Schmuck of the Week. And our Schmuck of the Week comes from overseas. Fish, take it away.
Okay. Shame on you, the French foreign press, for making it mandatory that every athlete has to do a press conference after one of their matches. Naomi Osaka, a great champion and a great person, she suffers from depression. She suffers from mental illness that a lot of people suffer from, and she felt uncomfortable doing it. And they kept berating her to do this and even threatened to default her, and she finally pulled out of the tournament. You know what? I think it's horse shit. I'm sorry, John. I'm cursing. Okay, it's horrible. You shouldn't make people do things you don't want to. Marshawn Lynch, who played for the Seattle Seahawks, had the same kind of. He didn't want to talk to the press. You're not paid to talk to the press. You're paid to play your sport. Shame on the French foreign press for putting that on Naomi Osaka, and good for her for pulling out because she's one of the top players in the world. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And I'm kind of upset with hearing from people like Chris Everett, who said, oh, you got to be talking because, we used to talk to the press and that's how we got known. And it's like, well, I get that. But at the same time, too, I don't think you're taking into account what somebody has to go through. I mean, I teach people how to be on camera, and there are some people that just can't be on camera. They just can't get by that stigma. So it's just something you're going to have to live with. You're going to have to be with these people. If they play the sport, great. That's super. If not, okay, then move on. But to make her feel that way just added to the mental problems that she was having, and I think it's wrong. So I think it's good. I think it's good that we called them the Schmuck of the Week, and they should be. All right, now let's see who's got swag this week. Who are we toasting?
This guy has swag for my entire life. That's Pat Tillman. Yep. And we just recently celebrated yesterday Memorial Day, and there's a guy who gave up a huge contract offer from the Arizona Cardinals and went over to fight in Afghanistan, and the ultimate sacrifice, he was taken from us. And he's a testament to everyone out there that, hey, you know what? Without our soldiers, without what the troops have done for us in the past, I don't think you and I are sitting in front of this camera right now and doing what we're doing. So you know what, Pat Tillman, everyone in the service, thank you for your service. And Pat Tillman, love your swag. You're an angle. You get your swag of the year in my book.
Okay, now we're going to toast. This is our toast of the week and our drink of the week. What are we sipping here, Fish?
We're sipping whiskey, old-fashioned whiskey for Memorial Day. I got. Mine's actually Southern Comfort. This is what Kenny Stabler drank for the Raiders. So in honor of Kenny Stabler,
I had a little Irish whiskey. I had Bushmills. So yeah, there you go.
Really?
All righty.
Oh,
nice. All right, drink of the week is sponsored by Shucks in Vegas. Get great seafood like oysters, crab meat, and shrimp at Shucks. They have 2 locations. The Shucks in the Northwest has My Boy Fish on overnight. So check out Shucks on Facebook. Shucks is spelled Shucks. And make sure to head out there. Okay, time for Ginger to snap us out of our thinking. Charlotte, a.k.a. Ginger Snaps, is here for her weekly tutorial, or maybe it's more of a reveal. Hey, Ginger Snaps.
Hello. I think it's funny that you guys brought up so many of the countries that I've lived in. Your schmuck of the week was French, and I definitely have some grievances to air with the French people I've been on dates with. And, John, you had Irish whiskey. Have a little experience in that country too. So a little tour of the world, I guess.
There you go. Well, fill us in on the things that you dealt with and maybe guys like us wouldn't understand.
Oh, gosh. Where do I even start? I mean, first, I want to say that I think that dating while you're abroad is one of the best things you could possibly do, because first of all, you're abroad, you're in this fun mindset. You're not really expecting that anything's going to be long term. So it's super easy to just have fun. And it's the best way to learn about a new culture and to learn a new language. I did date someone when I was in France who only spoke French. And I had a pretty good command of the French language. It wasn't perfect, but that was an experience that I both recommend and don't recommend. I recommend it because my French massively improved, including swear words. Because of him, I'm very good at saying, "You're a beep" in French, and I appreciate that skill now. However, on the emotional front, not being able to communicate in your mother tongue is a little difficult. But when it comes to French dating, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just had bad luck of the draw. But I repeatedly had dates with people who brought me on amazing dates and these fantastic things and took me around Paris and very picturesque. And then they ruined it at the end. One ghosted me, which, okay, fine. We live in 2021. You're going to get ghosted. One, took me to the top of the Sacré-Cœur, where you see all of Paris, and it literally was a movie. And then just started rambling on about French sex education and how much better they are at kissing, and then tried to use that as a way to kiss me. I was like, don't ever talk to me again, which he did. Continue to talk to me and send all these messages about our love story. I was like, dude, I rejected you. Please move on. That was uncomfortable.
Wait. What do the French do different kissing that we as Americans don't do? What do they do?
I wouldn't know. I didn't let him get the chance to show me. He was very eager to, play teacher, but I didn't want to know. They think they invented French kissing, but I don't think they did, because they didn't invent French fries. So just because it has that does not mean that it is accredited to them. But another French experience, OG fans might remember that a few weeks ago, I talked about, in terms of dating and who's splitting the checks, I talked about a French date where a man, I'm hearing laughing from in my house. We have a guest audience member. Anyway, right. So the conversation about who pays. That was part of a larger story in which, again, a French man invited me on a date, and it was very picturesque. We drove to this little town called Annecy, and it has a stream through the town. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. We sat at a French cafe. It was picturesque. And at the end of the date, I realized he had not asked me a single question about myself for 4 hours. 4 hours. I was like, hello? Are you on a date with a mirror? And it was just, I was like, okay, fine. Maybe you're not the best at small talk, but even the little things, how when you're on an early date, you ask some intro questions, easy stuff. Tell me about your family. I asked him if he had any pets. He spent 20 minutes telling me about his favorite dog. And I was like, that's so sweet. And then he didn't ask me if I had any pets. I was like, dude, that's such an easy in. So I was not impressed. How do you spend 4 hours with somebody and not ask them a single question about themselves?
I've done it.
Well, shame on you, Fish.
The only question I have was, how close is your apartment to here? That's going way back, honey.
You're probably the other end of the story that someone else is telling, or 20, 30 years ago. I don't know how old you are. But so that was my dating experience in France. But it was worth it because I saw some amazing towns. And again, when you go into it with the mindset of like, I'm just having a cultural experience, then nothing can really go wrong, which is the same attitude I took in Ireland. And so for a little bit of background, I studied in France. I studied in Paris for a semester and then spent the summer there at a resort. So I had quite a few months. But during that time, I took a 2-week trip to Ireland. I went around the country by myself. I had very little plans. I had a return flight booked, and that was it. I just kind of flew by the seat of my pants every day. And that was interesting. A couple of very serendipitous things happened to me. And I don't know if that's luck of the Irish or if that's just, I think part of it is, when you're excited about having new experiences and you're so willing to just meet people, good things happen, fun things happen. Not good things in terms of long, successful romance. That is, yet to be accomplished, but fun stories, sure. I had one weird experience where I was out at dinner by myself because I was traveling alone, and I met this family who was like having a very raucous night, and they asked me to take photos of them, and the one kid who was my age-ish was like, oh, I'm so sorry for my embarrassing family, whatever. Asked me for a drink. I was like, sure, why not? Wasn't Irish, but I was like, whatever. We had a drink. It was fine. I was like, I'm gonna never see you again. Goodbye. But we had talked about the fact that both of us were making kind of trips around Ireland, and he was like, well, let's see if we end up in the same city again. I was like, yeah, okay. We ended up in the same city a week later, and he was like, do you want to get together again? I was like,
Wow.
Yeah, sure, okay. So I was like, I'm picking the bar. I'm picking what we do. You can come here if you want. I don't really care. He was not nice. He was rude, and I should have said no. I should have been like, no, I didn't waste my time with you. But it was a cool bar.
John, Ginger Snaps, Brad Grunberg's texting me right now and says, tell Charlotte I'll fly her to France. I won't kiss her because I'm old enough to be her father. But within 4 hours, I'll talk all about her. You got to be a fan of Canadian Brad Grunberg.
Don't make promises you can't keep. I'm ready. I'm dressed for France. Look, I mean.
Brad Grunberg's your biggest fan. The comedian Brad Grunberg, she's ready to go to France again. And if you're buying, she's flying, buddy.
I'm ready. Yeah, let's go. See, now I know all of the good spots, so I can be the tour guide and be like, ooh, this romantic date at the top of the Eiffel Tower, whatever.
Let me have a question. When you were in Europe,
mm-hmm.
Did you experience, any kind of, and I like to keep this show light, but any anti-Americanism there, or did you, because you act European and you're so mature for your age. You don't act like an idiot that's from California that says, dude, did you experience any anti-American stuff when you were there?
Yes, but mostly in pretty joking ways. I think we all know about like the sort of stereotypes of the French attitudes. And I definitely got a lot of people asked immediately when they found out I'm American, they were like, oh, so you love Trump? Like, oh, don't ask me about that. Like, I'm here in France drinking wine. I don't want to talk about American politics. And mostly it's joking, but I do think that there's a little bit of validity because I think Americans tend to sort of forget that when they go to another country, they should respect that country's like rules and sort of social behaviors. And, if you're sitting in a really calm, quiet cafe and you're yelling about who knows what, politics or sports, they're not going to be happy with you. Like, respect where you're going, I think is kind of the gist of it. I never like to stick out as an American, so I'm always like,
Fish, I think we need to go to Europe with Ginger Snaps and just follow her around and get the stories as they happen.
Well, Brad Grunberg's going to fly out. Brad Grunberg's going to fly us there. All we got to do is feed him, and he'll fly us there. So that we're in.
Perfect.
John, I've been to France. You've been to France. The one thing I've noticed about the French people is that they're the best dressed people on the planet. They are always on the fashion etiquette. They're always a step ahead of everyone. Beautiful countryside, beautiful people, and stuff like that. And I'm glad you've had the experience to go there at a young age and get to Europe. I said, everyone, get if you could travel. And right now, as things are opening up, travel, go see the world, go see how other people live, and realize, maybe you have it pretty good here in America.
I agree.
traveling abroad and studying abroad is like the best decision I have made throughout my entire college experience. I cannot recommend it enough.
I agree. I did it in Italy, and I was very happy that I did. So, and I have a love of Italian wines as a result. All right. All right. She is Ginger Snaps. Ginger, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. She is Charlotte. We call her Ginger Snap. She'll be back next week. Write to us if you have something she should school us on. Write to dailyfish1@gmail.com. All right, Ginger Snaps. We'll catch you next week. And we are just getting started. Up next, we gab with former Major League player, now broadcaster with the Yankees, who's also got a great celebrity golf event. We're going to talk to Ken Singleton, who joins Daily Fish in just a moment. But first, check out Nooz. That is spelled N-O-O-Z. This is a revolutionary new nationwide startup that helps businesses and local communities reach citizens and customers where local news cannot. You can even become a newscaster as well. Lots of out-of-work TV news folks are looking at this. All you got to do is go to Nooz Facebook page, which is Nooz USA, to help your business or start a new on-camera career. That's Nooz, Nooz USA. That's on Facebook. All right, let's bring in our first guest here. Ken Singleton is in the broadcast booth with the Yankees. But before that, he had a great career with the Yankees, the Mets, the Orioles, and the Expos in Montreal. He also has a great celebrity golf event that he hosts in Baltimore that is coming up very soon. Ken, welcome to Daily Fish.
John, how are you doing? Fish, how are you tonight?
Good to have you. Good to meet you. To me, I'm so psyched to have you on because for me to watch a guy watch you when I was a kid and a big fan.
Well, there was a time, we were all younger back in the day, and I was able to do things then that I certainly can't do now. But one thing I can do, I can play a lot of golf now. That's one thing I really enjoy.
And you do. We're going to talk about that. Let's start talking about the Yankees, though. They seem to start overcoming the injuries, and then a sweep by the Tigers. Should Yankee fans be worried, or is it just still too early?
They should be worried. In my opinion, they should be. This team is not performing the way it should. Their pitching's been pretty good, John, but the hitting has not been there. There's just too many holes in the lineup right now. This is a team that scored more runs than any other team last year in the American League. Now they're near the bottom of the pack. I mean, I think they were coming in tonight. They were tied with the Orioles for amount of runs scored, and that's certainly a place you don't want to be because the Orioles are in last place. So the Yankees certainly need to get some of their hitters going. You can start right at the top. LeMahieu's not performing the way he should. Stanton had a few good weeks. Then he got injured. Now he's back, and he looks like he's lost. The only two that are really hitting, I would say Judge and Duhar right now are the two that are swinging the bats the best. And, it's not like they come up all the time with men on base because the Yankees have hit they've hit quite a few home runs, but most of them have been solo shots. They've had so many games this year where they've scored 3 or fewer runs, and you're not going to get it done, particularly in the American League East, that way.
Yeah, you being with the Yankees and my family's from Brooklyn, and the greatest thing I've ever seen in my 60 years in sports, Ken, Reggie Jackson in the 6th game of the 1977 World Series hits 3 consecutive home runs on 3 consecutive pitches. You played the game for so many years, for 15 years. Have you ever seen anything like that? And can you agree with me that other than Cal Ripken's long playing streak, that's got to be the greatest thing I've ever seen?
Well, not only did he hit 3 home runs on 3 pitches, he hit them off 3 different pitchers. So that makes it even more difficult. Reggie, the year before, he played with us in Baltimore and became a free agent and went to the Yankees. And that was like at the beginning of free agency in the major leagues. And, of course, George Steinbrenner was running the Yankees at the time, and he's trying to get all the stars on his team. And Reggie was the one that he wanted. And it was a good pickup. Reggie performed well for the Yankees over the years. And then he moved on to the Angels. But Reggie, that was amazing. I was there at the beginning of Cal's streak. His career lasted longer than mine, and he just kept going and going and going. To me, Fish, it's not so much a physical streak. It is a mental streak. I think the baseball season is really a grind. And there are days when you're playing, you hope that you can get rained out just to get a day off, particularly if you're not playing well. And there were times, Cal's a great player. He's in the Hall of Fame, and he did his share of hitting. But there were times he was in slumps, and I bet you he wished they would got rained out somewhere along the line.
Right. John and I are baseball purists. It's still my favorite sport along with football. And we go back and I look at the game now with the shift and do you need a pitch clock and what have you. I'm going to bring up a picture of a guy that you played for that's my favorite manager of all time. Here's a guy named Earl Weaver. There's Earl Weaver. Now, here's the lost art, Ken. You know what baseball what stinks about baseball? I love the managers confronting the umpires. And now with instant replay, you don't see that. You go back to the day, you remember Dick Williams and Lou Piniella, and you're a guy. Give me a story about Earl Weaver, because he had the greatest confrontations with umpires I've ever seen, and it added such drama to the game.
Well, Earl holds the American League record for being thrown out of games. 91 times he was thrown out of games, and I saw a lot of them. Now, he says the record should have, Earl's passed away, but he said the record should have been 97 because 6 times he got thrown out before the game actually started. When they were handed in the lineup cards, he got thrown out of the game. So the game wasn't official yet, so it didn't really count as being thrown out of a game. So, let's see. There was one time we were in, where was it, Milwaukee or Cleveland, one of the two, and Marty Springstead was the umpire, and Earl came out to argue a point, and Earl had the rule book with him, but Marty wouldn't change his mind. So Earl started tearing up the rule book, and he said, we're not going to play by the rules. We don't need this book. And he threw the piece of paper up in the air, and by the time it hit the ground, he was out of the game. Marty Springstead. Earl didn't like umpires, and they didn't like him. When Earl passed away, I went down to his memorial service in Hialeah, Florida. There were a number of Orioles there, front office people. Everybody got a chance to speak. And when I went up to speak, I get up to the lectern, and I look around the room, and the first thing I said was, "Are there any umpires here?" And as I looked around the room, I said, well, I didn't think so. And of course, there were none. And a few people, they laughed a little bit, but I was just trying to loosen it up a little, let everybody know that Earl and umpires didn't get along, which they all knew anyway. But it was a pretty serious conversation. One thing that I remember, I was sitting next to Eddie Murray in the audience there, and when Frank Robinson got up to speak, Frank was about the 7th one to speak. And he got up there, and the first thing he said was, "I've never batted 7th in my life." Which, here's a Hall of Fame player. He probably batted 3rd or 4th his whole career. And, for him, I think he felt, that it was an obligation for them to let him speak either 3rd or 4th or at the top of the program. But he didn't get to speak till about 7 people in. And it was obvious that Frank wasn't happy about it. But, getting back to Earl again, though, he was the best manager I ever played for. The last time, one thing about him, he didn't care who you were on the team. If you made a mistake, he was going to let you know about it. And, nowadays managers want to be friends with the players. Earl was not there to be your friend. He was there to win games. And if you made a mistake on the field, he was waiting for you when you walked off the field to let you know about what you should have done. And there's one time I dropped a fly ball in Chicago, and an easy fly ball, it dropped, but the White Sox didn't score. So I felt good about it. I come back to the dugout. Here he comes. He walks down, gets in front of me. I'm sitting down on the bench. He says, "What are you doing out there?" I said, "Earl, I got no excuse. I dropped the ball. They didn't even score." And by this time, his language is starting to change. He says, "Well, that's not the point. You're supposed to catch the ball." And I said, "Well, do you think I want to look bad in front of 35,000 fans?" And he said, "Well, you did." And I said, "Earl, you better leave me alone. I got to hit this inning." And then he thought about it. He says, "Oh, yeah, go ahead." He knew what was important. He let me go because I had to hit. And he knew he wanted me to drive in some runs. So he let me off the hook there. The only person he never yelled at, John, never, ever, was Eddie Murray. And, well, first of all, Eddie was like very special player. He's a Hall of Famer. And Earl kind of felt that if Eddie got ticked off or pissed off about anything, he would just say, heck with it. I'm not playing today. I'm not doing what I should be doing, and just go through the motions. So Earl just let him, whatever Eddie did, and he didn't do many things wrong, but we always felt that Eddie was his favorite guy on the team because he would never scream at him. Never.
Ken, John has a quote from one of the ladies that says that you're at the time you played, and you're obviously now, you're one of the best looking people to ever put on a uniform. And you look good and handsome. And you got a chance to play in Montreal from 1972 to 74. The best looking women on the planet, they say, are in Montreal. I don't know what your personal life is, and it's none of my business, but you had a great time in Montreal. If you're the best looking guy in baseball, and you're in a town with the best looking women, I would have loved to be in your wingman.
Yeah, I was a single guy in those days too, Fish. So it kind of worked out. Although I kind of feel if I was a hockey player, it would have worked out even better because hockey was the number one sport. But the thing about Montreal, the summers are so short. It's so cold up there that when baseball season is on and you happen to get some good weather, April was brutal. September was starting to change. But you get to July and August and maybe late June, it was hard driving in that city because you're driving down the street and you're looking at people walking down the sidewalks and you're slamming on the brakes all the time to avoid the car in front of you. And it's just, you're right. The women up there, they'd take advantage of the good weather. They were wearing the heaviest coats in the wintertime. In the summertime, they were letting it all go. So that was it was a great place to play. I hope they get a team back one day. But I think they would do a lot better with a second chance.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, this is Daly Fish. We're talking to Ken Singleton, current Yankee broadcaster, also former Major League star with Yankees, Orioles, and Mets in the Expos. He also has the Ken Singleton Celebrity Golf Classic for cool kids. That's coming up June 12th through the 14th. Ken, talk about that. It's less than 2 weeks away. It's June 12th through the 14th. It is one of my favorite events. Tell the folks what to expect if they're going to go and if they can go.
Well, number one, you can expect to have a good time. And I think you know that, John, because you've been there before. You can expect to have a lot of camaraderie with a lot of great people that come from all over the country. Even last year during COVID, we had a pretty good crowd that showed up. We did all the protocols and all that sort of thing. And now with things starting to loosen up, I think people are going to have even more fun than they had last year, and maybe as much fun as they had 2 years ago. I think that we have good food, we have good parties, we have good golf. You'll meet a lot of celebrities. John Daly has been kind enough in the past to host some of our parties and some of the events that we have. And he's done a great job in the past, to say the least. And we're very thankful, John, that you've been able to come and help us out. For those out there who don't know what the Cool Kids are all about, we help kids and their families who are dealing with cancer issues. Every thing that we provide for these families is free of charge. We have parties for the kids on their birthdays. We have tutoring for them because kids who are taking treatments are going to miss some school. We have retired teachers that come in. We have student teachers that come in from Towson University to help their kids with the studies. If they need rides for their treatments, we will provide that. We have Christmas parties. We have newsletters. We have nights where the parents can drop the kids off and they can go out on dates at the clubhouse that we have in Towson, Maryland. And it's just something that has been very dear to my heart over the years. This is my 12th year being involved. Chris Federico is the president of the Cool Kids, and he's done a fantastic job over the years. We now have actually 4 golf tournaments, not only mine.
Yep.
We have Dan Jansen's in Charlotte, Mike Eruzione, the great USA hockey player, is in Massachusetts. And this year we're going to have a new one, John. I don't know if you're aware of this, but in November, Dennis Martinez, El Presidente. El Presidente is going to have a tournament in West Palm Beach, Florida, that's going to help benefit the Cool Kids. And I'm looking forward to that one. Dennis has always been a guest at my tournaments and helped us out. And I'm going to return the favor. It's not too hard to get people to go to Florida in November. It's starting to get cold up north. and everybody wants to go and play. And he's going to have a lot of players live in Florida, a lot of former players and a lot of current players live in Florida. So it should be a great turnout and for people who come from all over the country. So I'm looking forward to this year. First of all, last year we weren't able to hug and shake hands and all that sort of thing, but now we're getting closer to back to normal, and I just think more of the love will show through this year.
All right. Well, looking forward to, hopefully I can get up there for it this year, Ken. It's always a great event, and you are not only a great host, you're just a great fun guy. You and your family do a great job of putting it on and making people feel at home. That's for sure. So we appreciate it.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. Go ahead, Phil.
Right.
Ken, you're cousins with Doc Rivers. Now,
Yeah.
I'm from Los Angeles, and I'm a Clipper fan. So
Uh-huh.
me and Billy Joel, the only two people love the Clippers, and we really rooted for this guy. He's up 3-1 against the Wizards right now. Is Joel Embiid going to be a problem being out? Can they pull this off? In LA and in the West Coast, we root for Doc Rivers. Tell him, man, you got fans out here.
Yeah.
Still.
It's interesting that his mom and my mom were sisters. Unfortunately, they both passed away. They're from Chicago. Doc's from Chicago. I grew up on the East Coast in New York. Years ago, when the White Sox won the World Series, if you guys remember that.
Yep.
Doc's mom called my mom. She called my mom. They're crying on the phone. The White Sox have finally won the World Series, and they were both very happy about it. But then at the end of the conversation, Doc's mom asked my mom, "Do you ever think we'll live long enough to see the Cubs win?" And my mom's answer was, "Now you're asking for too much." Unfortunately, they both didn't live long enough to see the Cubs win, and Doc's brother, Doc's father was a Cubs fan. Out of all of my family members in Chicago, he was the only one who's a Cubs fan. They all liked the White Sox. So, So Doc's brother, Grady Jr., took a miniature Cub flag to the cemetery to place on his father's tombstone. And when he went to the cemetery, he looked all around, and there were little Cubs flags all over the place. And that shows you.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that was. I told that story in Chicago at a telecast when the Yankees were playing the Cubs at Wrigley Field. All the local people from Chicago that worked our telecast, they were almost in tears when I told them the story, because they know what it would have meant to their relatives who had passed on to see the Cubs win the World Series.
Yeah.
Sure.
Wow. Great story. All right. We've been talking to Ken Singleton, current Yankee broadcaster, former Major League star with the Yankees, Orioles, Mets, and Expos. He also has the Ken Singleton Celebrity Classic for cool kids that's coming up June 12th through the 14th. Here's the site to go to, coolkidscampaign.org. You can get more information if you're in the Baltimore area and you get a chance. You need to go and go say hello to Ken. Hey, Ken, thank you so much. Great talking to you, buddy. Hopefully we're going to see you soon.
It'll be my pleasure. My pleasure, John, as always. And Fish, enjoy your Clippers. I don't know if they're going to make it.
Hey, you know what? Hey, Ken, if you're ever in Las Vegas, look me up. I'll get your information. I'd love to have you out, have you to the restaurant, and and just talk about the old days of baseball.
You got it, Fish. Anytime.
You'll have a good one.
Thank you,
All right,
sir.
Ken. Thanks, buddy. All right, still ahead, we have another Ken. Ken Davis is a journalist and author. He worked with me at Real TV, but that was only a small part of his career. He wrote a book called In Bed with Broadcasting, and he has some great stories, and he's also one of the nicest guys in the business. Before we get to Ken, I want you to check out Undercover Jet Setter. It's travel, food, wine, mixology, and golf. Susan Anzalone and I bring you great locations, recipes, cocktails, and wines, all into a TV show shot off the iPhone. We're on the DB&A channel as well as YouTube. We can even help the hospitality industry. Contact us at info@undercoverjetsetter.com. And let's bring in Ken Davis, our next guest. Ken is an author and journalist. He has won 3 Emmys. His book is In Bed with Broadcasting. And Fish, we have him on the show because in that book, he only wrote one sentence about me, and it was nice.
And it was true. John, you truly were one of the nicest anchorman I ever worked with. But I also think it's great your parole officer is letting you do this kind of stuff again.
No, don't Ken. He's still got the ankle bracelet. He can't leave the house.
Well,
and here it is. Can you see that, Ken?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I lost my Real TV shirt.
In honor of you being on the show with me, I wore this tonight.
We're keeping it real. No, John was just as nice off screen as he is on screen, which is not can't be said of every anchorman out there.
Nice of you to say. It just real quickly here.
You're sober.
Well, yeah, that's true. Well, hey, we're on a show where we're drinking, so
I understand.
I mentioned earlier in the grind about Hollywood coming back or not. The world seems to be okay with Netflix, and then I'm noticing other cities opening up to a lot of film production. What are you seeing? Because you're in the Hollywood area. I know you're not working in there yet anymore. Is Hollywood coming back from this, or do you think there's Hollywood spreading out all over the place?
It's more than people not going to theaters. There's a seismic change going on in how we get entertainment. My old workplace, Television City in Los Angeles, which hundreds of shows have been done out of there since, I think, 1950. The facility has been sold and basically is going to be turned into production facilities. There is so much production going on now in Hollywood. It's phenomenal. Oh. And the seismic change is, this thing where movies, the top actors used to be in movies, and then the second class actors would be in television, and on and on. But television is now even bigger than movies. I mean, people stay home, and the quality of what we're seeing on TV, I have no financial interest in this, is phenomenal. I mean, you ask people, they're not talking about great movies, they're talking about great TV shows. And it's really a treat. You get to stay home. It's safer, it's cheaper. You're not going to get COVID. A guy isn't going to sneeze on you. And so as long as you don't get fat and become a couch junkie, it's wonderful. And I mean, Hollywood was having its issues with Vancouver and different places, people filming there because it was cheaper. But I mean, suddenly, within the last year, the land values of any production facility has shot up so much, it's incredible.
I have nothing, Ken, against Ahmad Rashad. I think he's a terrific talent. But to take that guy and replace this guy with that guy is blasphemous. All right.
I can't agree more. Ahmad Rashad.
Stay with the NBA, Ahmad, and your best friend in the world is Michael Jordan. When John was on Real TV, I'm not just saying this because he's my friend and he's the host of this show. He was terrific. And you had to have a great time working with him. I've never met a guy. He did a pilot called Missing in America. And he's absolutely wonderful at reading a teleprompter, and you never know it. He's that much of a professional. I know I'm kissing his ass, this and that, but he's that good. To replace him, there's stupidity in this business, and we're gonna hear from the Ahmad Rashad people. I don't care. Back to you. You sat there. You've interviewed Barack Obama. Okay. You've been with Walter Cronkite. I mean, Walter Cronkite in my generation is the Johnny Carson of anchors. It's the penultimate. It's the top, the pinnacle, and stuff like that.
Johnny Carson.
Tell us about a story. Ken, tell us about a story that about you and Mae West.
We're jumping all over the map here, from Walter Cronkite, who I went out to.
We're going old school here, buddy.
Ahmad Rashad, let me say real quickly, cost me a lot of money because once he took over the show, it lasted about a year and a half and then was canceled. And I was making a nice paycheck. If we had kept with John Daly, things would have been different. But I'll be frank with you. I don't care anymore. I'm retired. Who are we talking about? Mae West.
Let me give you Ken Davis's email for all the Ahmad Rashad people. He said that we didn't. Go ahead.
As long as it's my email, not my personal address.
Exactly.
Okay, Mae West. I was working at CBS Network News out of the aforementioned TV City, and I get a bizarre phone call on an early Saturday morning that a legend has died. And I said, who? And I said, who is this? First of all, this is the days before you knew who was calling you. And the guy says, Mae West, and then clicks. Now, we would get a lot of, phony calls in the TV business, but this guy sounded legit. And I happen to know where Mae West lived. My great-grandfather built a lot of homes in the Hancock Park district of Los Angeles. Oh. And a former girlfriend had pointed out, Mae West lives up there in the penthouse of the Ravenswood Apartments. And that's when she would say, come up and see me sometime. She meant the Ravenswood. So I jumped in my car and went over there. and asked the concierge if Mae West had passed away. And he kind of laughed at me and said, I would know if she had died. Run along, sir, go away. Well, I was a journalist. I wasn't about to buy that. And I figured he just didn't know. And so I walk out of the building, and then I see a family of 5 going back into the Ravenswood. And I mixed in between them and snuck my way onto the elevator and went up to the penthouse and knocked on the door. And a crying man answered the door. And it was gentleman who lived with Mae West for 35 years. And he proceeded to take me on a tour of her penthouse and told me all these stories about her, bringing tears to my eyes. In the meantime, I've got to let CBS know in New York whether or not Mae West is dead or alive. And I'm not about to say that unless I know for a fact if she's dead or alive. And I said that in a much nicer way to the guy. And he takes me into a bedroom where it's very hot and humid. There's a candle flickering. And then there is on the bed a sleeping bag with blonde hair coming out and a forehead shining in the light. And I started.
I'm sorry.
And so I'm trying to keep my cool. And I say I've got to leave now. And the minute I'm outside the Ravenswood, I'm shaking. Now, those I hope most of your viewers know who Mae West was. She was the Madonna of her times. I mean, her and W.C. Fields, she basically saved Paramount Pictures. Huge actress. So now I'm in the streets of Hollywood. CBS Evening News airs in 19 minutes. I'm the only one that knows that Mae West is dead. I find a payphone. This is the days before cell phones.
Wow.
And go there. And next to a guy that looked like he'd been recently released from San Quentin pumping gas, I am calling CBS in New York, and they put me on live on CBS radio, and I'm announcing the death of Mae West.
Wow.
And then they led with it on CBS that night. I go into much more detail about it in the book, but it was quite an experience.
Wow.
Talk about Robin Leach. You worked on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, which at a time was one of the biggest shows there was in syndication. I mean, was he as full as himself as he acted like he was in front of the camera, or was he actually great to work with?
Both.
Yeah.
Princess Malibu in her pink Porsche.
Right.
Yeah, Robin Leach. You know what? If you went with him, and I know he worked in Vegas at the end there.
Right.
If you went with the flow, he was a nice guy. He had a huge ego. But he knew the stars, and that's when I've worked in news for many years, but I later worked in entertainment, helped start the show Extra. I worked on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. You had to just kind of don't take it too seriously and go with the flow. But Robin Leach was a trip. He knew all the stars, and he came up with a gimmick that made a lot of money. And but yeah, he was full of himself, but I let him be full of himself. That's what a good producer does. That was a nice thing about John, a very humble man and not full of himself. Once again, when he's not drinking. But seriously, in the business, and you're going to meet a lot of people in the book like this, you really find out what they were really like. And it was while working for Robin Leach, I flew down to Acapulco with Angela Bassett and found her to be, blew my mind. She was probably one of the most intelligent people in the entertainment world I ever worked with. I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks in Florida, went on to go to Yale, be in the National Honor Society, the only female member of her high school to ever do that. And we go off to Mexico to show her, disco dancing. And I danced with her, but I looked like your crazy uncle at a wedding who had too much to drink, and you should get off the dance floor. But she went swimming, surfing, all kinds of fun stuff. But yet she quoted Shakespeare. She was a delight to be with. So sometimes that was one thing working on that show. And I could tell you the other side of some of the stars that wasn't so great. But you get to see what people are like when the camera is off. Much like Walter Cronkite, when he and I went out drinking. And that's a strange way to word it. But he had just come back from out at Edwards Air Force Base, where he covered a space shuttle landing. And he was tired. He had just quit, or stepped down from the anchor desk at CBS, was replaced by Dan Rather. And he was hot, he was tired. And I took him back to his hotel, the Beverly Hills Hotel. And he says, let's go out to dinner someplace that's not too crowded. So we found a funky restaurant called the Formosa Cafe in West Hollywood that's been around since the 20s. Gangsters used to go there. Brad Pitt and many others, Sting and such, hide out in places like that. And Walter and I had a wonderful time. And he talked all about journalism, about his real feelings about the news business, and even what it's like to have diarrhea when you're anchoring a national newscast live. So we covered a lot of territory. But he also talked quite a bit about journalism. So in this book, You're going to meet serial killers. You're going to meet former anchormen, Robin Leach, Mae West. Well, you don't really meet Mae West. Even a serial killer who at midnight I had to encounter, the Hillside Strangler, lovely guy, much like Phil Spector. Ask me anything.
So real quickly, we're running out of time here, but give me either the Hillside Strangler or the Phil Spector story, because both of them are pretty good. Which one do you think is the better one?
They're both. I'll just give you the headline on both of them. Phil Spector, I hung out with him for 6 months, met everybody from Bob Dylan to Leonard Cohen. John Lennon called, and at the end of the chapter, Phil points a gun at me that's loaded, and you'll have to read the book to see whether or not I survived. As for the Hillside Strangler, another lovely gentleman. He and his cousin were involved in 12 famous murders in Los Angeles, and I chased down Angelo Bono before he was arrested and encounter him at midnight on a Glendale street, completely dark, and he talks to me while I sit in my car. It's amazing I'm still alive.
Wow.
I scared my mother when she read this book.
Wow. Did you have any idea who you were talking to?
Yeah, the plan, I was trying to keep it short. I was single at the time. As I talk about in the book, the industry was my mistress. I'd do anything for her. So I dedicated my life to chasing down Angelo Bono. And I found him in a rundown bar in Glendale. And he saw me and tried to leave. And I pretended like I didn't notice him. But then I quietly got in my car and decided to follow him. And I'm driving through the streets of Glendale, California. And he suddenly pulls over on this street that is completely silent, not even a street lamp, and scared the bejesus out of me. But Angelo Bono, true story. And then 2 days later, he was arrested for killing 12 people.
Wow. So
well,
I'm glad you made it, Ken, because otherwise you wouldn't have been on real TV with me. So
I know. But it's been quite a career. But that's why I call it In Bed with Broadcasting, because the industry was my mistress. And lots of good Vegas stories too. I hung out with the Maloof brothers. You guys know them.
Oh, yeah.
I know that. Yeah.
They took real good care of me. We played Shaq on his own back court at his house. And anyway, there's lots of fun stories all over the map. And I watched Bill Cosby assault a woman. That's in there. And then on a lighter note, out to breakfast with Bill Cosby. With Obama.
Oh. All right, real quickly, give me about 30 seconds. How was Obama? Because I've never met him or anything like that, and people are always wondering.
Mm-hmm. Obama was two different people. When the camera was on, he was very animated, and this was while he was running for the United States Senate. He wasn't president yet. But I was most impressed when that camera was off. We were at an airport hotel. He said, "You want to go out to breakfast?" And he had sent home his bodyguard back to Chicago because of bad weather. His plane was delayed. It's a long story, but he was by himself. And he and I spent about 45 minutes discussing everything from music to sports to local colleges to Arnold Schwarzenegger, who he called the Germinator or something, and a sense of humor and very personable. There are 4 people I've met in my life that immediately you connected with, and it has nothing to do with politics. But you immediately felt like you were their best friend. And this is one reason why they were successful. Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, Obama, then Scully. And then I'd have to add Walter Cronkite. So maybe it's one more. But in our business, as you know, when you interview a lot of people, you become a part-time psychologist and you get to see what people are really like. And that's kind of what I try to show in the book.
All right. Ken?
And John, you're right at the top of, and I'm serious, down home, you're like a next door neighbor. You don't act like an anchor man, and plus you're good at what you did.
Nice of you to say, my friend. Always good talking to you, and it was great working with you as well. Hopefully we'll do it again.
I agree, John. That'd be great.
All right. Ken, thank you. We've been talking to Ken Davis, journalist, author. His book is called In Bed with Broadcasting. It highlights his career with many celebrities, as he just told us, and you can get the book on Amazon as well. Ken, thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you, gentlemen. You got a fun show, and it was great to meet you, Fish.
Yeah, you too. Great stories. Thank you.
All right, great. All right, coming up, an update on last week's show and the Indy 500. First, you need a great golf getaway. The Myrtle Beach Golf Trail has dozens of courses along the Carolina coast. Set up an entire trip for yourself, your family, a bunch of friends. The site is myrtlebeachgolftrail.com. You can play there year-round. All right, and finally, just a quick update before we go here on last week's show. Our friend and last week's guest, Lisa O'Hurley, had her clothing line debuted at the Indy 500. Here they are. That is her husband, John, on the far left. On the far right is her son, Will. And in the middle is Steph Wilson, the IndyCar driver that Lisa's Lola Sportswear was endorsing. Now, Steph didn't have a good day. He had a wreck inside pit row and was out of the race. Still, John and Lisa and Will seem to have a great time. I still think John got in the car and drove it.
He looks like, I mean, look, we all love him from Seinfeld. I know he's your college roommate. There's two expressions on his face, and it's one. One, he looks like he doesn't want to be there, and two, he looks like he just lost a city council race. I mean, he's Peterman. What can I tell you? I mean, it's great to have them on. It's good to see that. Look at that, Lola Sports. It's great, and we wish them well in their endeavors.
Well, and John will be on the show at some time soon, that's for sure. All right, remember to watch Daily Fish live on Facebook at dailyfish.5. We are also seeing on DBNA television on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and also Apple TV soon as well. And we're also on YouTube. You got any questions, write us at dailyfish1@gmail and let us know what you're thinking. Fish, another great show. Boy, we jammed a lot in there in this one, didn't we?
We did. And I got emails and texts right now. There's a lot of guys that want to fly ginger snaps over to France and figure out a French kiss. Yeah, I'm going to get this kid married. You know, I got
or in a lot of trouble
right now. You know, this is crazy. I didn't know we became Fiddler on the Roof on this show. Phenomenal show, John. Again, it's such an honor to work with you. Whatever Ken Davis said about you, I make fun of you a lot, but you are again, you are a pinnacle in this business.
Well, nice of you to say, buddy. It's always great working with you. And we had another great show. Folks, thanks for joining us. And we're going to be back here next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific as well. Fish, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, John. Have a great week.
You too.